In the past 18 months, the world has changed in ways no one had ever imagined. Terms like lockdowns, social distancing, and wearing masks in public were unfamiliar for many. The COVID-19 pandemic and the way it has changed our daily lives is familiar to billions across the world. But not for Florence Kagika, a mother of two and a resident of Kangemi in Nairobi. She was admitted in hospital in March 2020 after getting into an accident. This was just when the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the country. Florence needed a metal plate inserted in her right leg, and she has been in hospital since without any hope of going home. Florence has been unable to pay the hospital bill that rose from 56,000 shillings to over 1.4 million shillings. Her children have been without their mother for all this time. Her husband forced to be both mother and father to the children aged 10 and 8 years old. Husband says his 8-year-old daughter asked to be allowed to go to the streets to beg for money so that her mother can come back home. The hospital she was admitted to is not far from her home. When she's at the balcony, Florence can see the roof of her house. Her kids have been able to see her as they walk past on their way home. More than a year in hospital has taken its toll on her. She cries daily, has not been eating. She fasts and prays for hope. Her plight was aired on Citizen Television special report, Healed and Detained. A day later, Florence was back home, the hospital waiving the medical fees and answering her prayers. The Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council wrote to the hospital asking it to allow the mother of two to leave. Florence has been reunited with her family, amazed at how much the world has changed in the 18 months she has not been actively a part of her society. Now, Susan is another patient admitted at Kenyatta National Hospital. She was admitted in June 2020 with a brain tumor. By September of the same year, she was well enough to go home, but the family was unable to pay the bill, and now she owes the hospital over 2.4 million shillings, money that is nearly impossible for her family to raise. She hasn't seen her two daughters since she was admitted. Her husband, unable to take care of the children, has asked relatives to take them in. His visits to KNH are few and far apart, as he's unable to afford the bus fare from Kiambu slums to the hospital. KNH received the same letter from KMPDC, but days later, Susan is still in hospital. It is unclear why she has not been allowed to leave. The family has been going back and forth with the hope that Susan will be home with them soon, but that is still not the case. After we aired the story, many Kenyans wrote to us about their own situations, being detained for not being able to pay medical bills. Yes, hospitals have to be paid for services rendered. But my question is, for someone who's unable to pay the initial bill of 56,000 shillings, how will she afford over 1 million shillings? Why not let them go earlier and come up with a payment plan? For millions of Kenyans, hospital bills are a daily nightmare. People are struggling with putting food on the table, so the thought of a relative falling ill and requiring hospitalization is difficult to even comprehend. That's why the promise of universal health coverage couldn't be more welcome. But with an election in the offing, will this noble idea take off? Will the money collected truly go towards easing the pain of millions of Kenyans saddled with unmanageable hospital bills? We owe it to these hardworking Kenyans. We owe it to ourselves and to our children. May we at least this once, just this once, do something that truly benefits the people who deserve it and so desperately need it. And that is my memo.